Start. Audible? Audible? Hello? Is it getting recorded? Audible? Am I audible? Let's start. It's already at max. Fair enough? Yeah. Good to go? So good evening, everybody. How are you guys? So do I see any audience from outside? All right, great. But as of now, anyways, good. So good evening, everybody. I am Anisha, and I am working at Red Hat. So I do mostly web test automation, and in the past I've done automation testing with Selenium using Python, and currently I'm using Cucumber and Water. So now the talk says biting into cucumber and water. This talk will revolve around web test automation. We'll see what is Cucumber, how to use Cucumber, and simply gradually move over to the usage of Water Webdriver. And then at the end, we'll see we'll have a sample application and a demo of it. At the end, we'll have a look at the Jenkins integration as well. Cucumber. So what is Cucumber? Cucumber is a command line tool that allows you to describe the behavior of your project in a plain text language which is understandable which is easily understandable. So it is very important that in a team of a software project that the developers and the stakeholders communicate with each other and they have a clear picture regarding the behavior of their project. So, very quick question to all of you. Has anybody used Cucumber before? Do you guys are developers or QAs? QAs. Mix. Okay. So, what's the ratio of developers here? Oh, great. QAs? Nice. So, has anybody used Water Webdriver before? No. Okay. That will be something new for you guys then. Great. So now it is very important to describe the behavior of a project, and how do we do that is we use the user acceptance testing to use Cucumber for that. So why Cucumber? Why do you? All of you have been using Cucumber. Why do you use Cucumber? Can anybody answer? Okay. Great. So we have nothing but communication. Communication is the most important thing. So we define our test, we define the behavior of a project, and so a user or a customer at the end is concerned about the behavior of your project. He will never say that a software project, it is not doing what I wanted it to do. But yeah, I like the class that you implemented. I like the module that you implemented. So it is about the behavior of the project. And that is why we use Cucumber. Alright, so next we'll have a quick look at the Cucumber testing stack. So it has features. What are features? Features describe the behavior of a project. They are basically the functional requirements. A feature is written in a plain text in the Jenkins syntax known as with a file which is with an extension of .feature. A feature is comprised of scenarios. A scenario is a Cucumber test case that you will say. And a scenario is composed of different steps. Supposedly you have an application with a search functionality. So here your feature could be search. One scenario could be searching for a free text. or searching for any object, anything. So now you will have in those you'll have steps saying when I search for this, I should get the so and so results. So these are the steps that you've already mentioned. Then you have, in order to implement those steps, to relate them, you have step definitions. Step definitions is nothing but the implementation of your steps into the code, which interact with your system. So when the step definitions is the code that you write. While you're writing the step definitions, you need some gem or some library to interact with your application. So here we'll be using the automation. We need an automation library. So you can use Watir Webdriver, which we'll be seeing in the next coming up slides, or you can use other gems or libraries to interact with the browser the way you feel like, depending on your application. So now the question comes, how do you start? First is to understand your goal. It is very important for you to understand your application well, decide which all test cases you need to make for that particular application, which test cases you need to automate at the UI layer, and so on. Your goal is very important before you start writing your features, scenarios, and steps. Next is to write your features, scenarios, and steps. After you've understood your application well, you can surely go on writing the feature files, scenarios inside, and the steps. Then comes that you need to write your step definitions, how you will implement those scenarios, how you will run your test cases. And the last is simply you need to execute the command Cucumber, and Cucumber goes running. So we'll have a quick look at the sample application. Alright, this is a very basic application which just does, I'll explain you what it does. So it has the labels in these the label placeholders are there. So when you click on this, so these are the filters. So it will filter for label 1 containers. When you click on label 2, so it will filter for label 2 containers. You find anything? You see anything going wrong? Label 3 is there. So you find a bug. You found a bug. So we'll also see that how do we see that a test application is actually detected and the test case failed because this label 3 has come up. But while we are filtering for label 2. Alright, so other thing is, so when I search for a keyword saying echo, it will give me code snippets highlighting the particular keyword. So this is another feature. Alright, so what do you think that we'll be testing in this particular sample application? What all can we test? Which feature would you like to test? Filter and search, correct. So the first feature that we'll say would be search. So here we say that feature to allow the users to search for free text. Now this is basically the functional requirement as I mentioned. What is a feature? Then we say scenario. Scenario is search for keyword echo. Next we write down the steps which says given that I am on the home page, when I search for echo, then I should see keyword echo highlighted in the search results. Correct? Any doubts? Great. So now, for this we've made a directory named features, we've written our feature files, we've written the scenario and the steps. Now we need to write the step definition. So this is the step definition outline. So while you've done up till that step, when you execute the command Cucumber, you'll get this outline of the step definition, which Cucumber provides you. Now you need to use this outline, which is written by Cucumber, and implement your steps and write the step definition. Now before we move on, jump on to writing our step definitions, we'll just have a quick look at how do we organize our code. So first is background. So Cucumber gives you this advantage. The background is a section which is a block of steps which is common for all the scenarios in a particular feature. So this is our project. So here we'll see. I'll show you. Okay. See here we can see. Can you see the background keyword here? So what we have done is, so we wanted to use. So this is the feature file for the label filtering. So here we see the feature to allow the users to filter packages using the left facet. Background is given that I am on the home page. All of you agree that this is one of the common steps which will be there for both the scenarios for label 1 and label 2, and thus we have put it into the section background so as to avoid repetition. So now the advantage comes that even if you want to change that particular step, you just need to change it at one place and not a lot of places. And it makes your code cleaner, and you can also concentrate on the scenario, what is the particular functionality or the particular test scenario says, instead of focusing on the background again and again, saying given that I am on the home page in all the scenarios. Okay, the next is data tables. Data tables is something which allows you to extend your tables, extend your step to a larger set of data. Supposedly for a search feature, you can have multiple set of data, right? You can have multiple free text. So you wouldn't like to make 10 different scenarios, right? You can simply make one particular scenario and add a data table to it, correct? So here we'll see again a sample thing. So this is a file for the search feature. So here we can make the data table saying when I search for search query, I've made a placeholder, and below I've put a table which says when I search for echo, then I should see the keyword echo highlighted in the search result. So now I am not making two different scenarios. So here you also need to note that the keyword scenario has been replaced by scenario outline. And then when you are mentioning the tables, the keyword used is example. Any doubts so far? Yeah, so if you wanna omit that step, depending on the sequence of your scenario, supposedly this is not the first feature, and you can also, if you do not want to put this step, you can simply put it in the make it a hook and put it in the environment.rb file, wherein this will be run at the start of all the before any of the features of the scenarios get executed. This is just a sample thing. No, the search bar is yeah. We see we assume that for this case. So data tables. Any doubts so far? Okay. Next is tags. So tags, if you see that you are going through the chapters of a book, you have sticky notes, correct? You want to easily access a particular chapter. The same way, tag is kind of a label to your feature files, to your features or your scenarios. So I'll just give you a tag. So here you can see a tag is always a keyword which is suffixed by @ symbol. So here the tag used is @search. So what advantage do I get out of using tags is that when I want to execute any particular feature, or supposedly if I just want to execute the run the test case for search feature, then I can simply do cucumber -tag @search. I can mention the tag. It allows you to execute a particular set of test cases. It allows you to segregate between the features. One particular scenario or a feature can have multiple tags as well. Supposedly there are two features which are considering different aspects of search. You can have the same tag for two features as well. Yes. 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 So, yes. So here you see that the placeholder says search query at the first, right? And then at the second line also you have the placeholder saying search query. So simply you can just replace the second placeholder search query with another output saying result, and just add another column to it saying result and add the corresponding results to it. And it will read from that particular column. So you can have it like multiple steps, and you can increase the dimension of the table the way you feel like. Next, so tags, we've seen the advantages and we've seen how do we use tags. So next is subfolders. So it is very important to organize your code into folders. Initially when you just start, you have less number of features. So it's very easy to manage. You can simply put them. But if your stack of test cases increases, then it becomes difficult for you to manage your code. And thus it is very important to have folders. So we'll have a quick look at the folder structure. Alright, so first is the config folder which I've made, wherein I'll put the wherein I have the config.yaml file. You can have it in any format, JSON or YAML, whichever is comfortable to you. Wherein I'll just write the URL that I want to go to, because it is not a good practice to put the URL inside your code, saying if the URL changes at some time, you deploy your application on some other machine or other server, then you do not have to open the script every time. You can simply edit it from the config file, which is outside. So if you want to have a look, okay, I'll show you that later. Then comes the features, which is this format is supposed to be followed by Cucumber itself. Cucumber can read from feature files inside the folder features. Inside the folder features, we have .feature extension files, label_filter and search.filter. So these are the two features that we have written. Then inside that I have a lib folder, wherein I have mentioned the search methods. Just because I do not want to do the repetition of code in my step definition. So I've made a support library kind of a thing. Then we have step definitions folder where you write the step definitions. A support folder is supposed to be inside the features itself, where you have the environment.rb file. This is the file. Everything you write in this file is loaded at the first before any of the features is implemented. And then inside that file, you can add hooks saying what you need to do at the end of. Here we initiate the object, have a before block where we are initiating our instances for the base URL. And then these are the hooks which we have added for after a scenario, what needs to be done. Here I've added the code that if a scenario fails, it will take a screenshot of that particular web page and put it into the folder named screenshots. And at exit, we're just closing the browser. These are the hooks that we have. Then we have a gem file, which is just a Ruby gem file is what already all of you must be knowing it. Then reports, screenshots. Any doubts with the folder structure you have? Any doubts with folder structure as of now? Anything? Okay. Great. So now we've almost seen that how do we deal with Cucumber, and the next is it's time to interact with our browser, write the step definitions. We've written our features, we've written scenarios, we've written steps, we've compiled, we've made a folder structure for our project, and now we see that how do we actually implement those steps that we've written. So what do we use? We're using Watir Webdriver for interacting with the browser. So Watir stands for Web Application Testing in Ruby. It is a Ruby gem, which is a Ruby implementation of the Selenium WebDriver. So it allows you to interact with the browser in just the same way as a human does. What do you do when you simply go on a web page or a web application? You click on links, you click on buttons, you fill in text inside the search boxes, and you search for something, stuff like that. So all this can be done with the help of Watir Webdriver. So how do you get started with Webdriver? It is a simple Ruby gem, so it involves simple steps saying gem install Watir Webdriver. Okay, this is a very simple sample code that how do you get started with Watir Webdriver. The step definitions we'll see ahead. First, you need to require the Watir Webdriver gem. This is the Ruby thing. So now the second line, what it is doing is it is simulating the action of a human and opening the Firefox browser. So now you've opened the Firefox browser. Second step says browser.go to the particular URL. So now it is commanding the now comes that we are ordering the browser to perform some action. It is same as that you go and type a URL. I want to go to www.example.com. So go to is a method which Watir Webdriver provides you, and you use it. Now text field. So now there is a text field. Supposedly you are having Google, right? So you have a text field. Text field is again a method which is there in Watir Webdriver. So you capture the text field with the attribute. So inside the bracket, what you see is the key value pair, which is on the key is the attribute and the value is the value of that particular attribute. So here we are holding the text field with the ID attribute of it. So you need to inspect the web elements properly before you do anything. Dot set is method which will set a particular text inside that text field. Dot button. Now you have a button where you say search. So you find that particular button with the attribute name which is mentioned, and you perform a click on it. Now you can, ahead of that, you can write your test case. You want to verify whatever. So here it just mentioned browser.url. So you can do the assertions. So now browser.url will print the URL of the particular window wherever you are on. So the output should be www.example.com. And at the end, you just close your browser and you're done. So this is the simple, very simple sample code for Watir Webdriver. So now we'll see how do you build an approach towards web test automation. First is to understand the functionality of your application. Write your test plan, write your test cases, decide that which test cases you want to automate. And not just write all the everything and see you make a big stack of Selenium or the whatever web UI automation test. This is not a good practice. Once you're done with deciding which test cases you want to automate, you need to inspect the web page elements accordingly. So how do you inspect the web page elements? So here we see. So now here in this application, what I want to see, I have a text box where I want to enter the keyword echo, and I want to verify whatever is highlighted should give me the correct the desired output, right? So we do a right click here and we go to inspect element, and this will tell me that this particular text box has been contained with an ID which says live filter -in. Is it visible to everybody? Okay. So this we have identified that this is with an ID liver filter, live filter hyphen input. Next is we see that what is the ID of this ID or whatever attribute is this contained in. So we do a right click, inspect element, and we find that it is contained in an attribute span with class equal to HL. So all the elements, so echo wherever will be the occurrence in this page, it is contained in a class known as HL. Correct? So we are done with inspecting the elements of our page, and we know that which element to interact, what to automate, and how do you get hold on that particular element where you want to execute your test case, perform an action on. Now you start writing your test. So we already saw that we've generated the step definitions outline. Now we write the code inside that. So you can see the folder structure I've mentioned. It says features. Inside that you have a folder step definitions. Then you have search.rb. So the first thing, given that I am on the home page, so the action that you might need to perform on this particular step is you will go on that particular URL, right? So you say add browser.go to, which I just explained earlier, bracket add URL. So here this is the variable which I have already mentioned in the config file here. So here I have specified the variable and then I related there. So now the next is when I search for echo. So now where do I want to input the text echo? It is in the text field. So I do browser.text field ID, the attribute, and the ID. We've already seen that it was inside this particular attribute. So we set the keyword and then now we need to press enter. So Watir also provides you a method or a friendly API which says send keys colon return or colon enter. So it will press enter and your action will be performed. Now the next is then I should see the keyword echo highlighted in search results. So here I need to query loop through all the occurrences which are there on the page. Correct? So I do add browser.spans colon class HL. So I can get hold of all the elements which are there in the class HL and loop through them and then verify that the text which is there, that the text which is there in that particular element should be equal to echo. So if that particular text is not echo, my test case will fail because of an expectation using the RSpec expectation should. So my test case will fail if the keyword is not echo, which is highlighted on that particular page. So when you run this particular script on your console, so it will give you an output like this. So now it's green saying that your test case has passed. Given that when I search for, then I should see echo highlighted in the search results. So now if your second step fails, then your third step will not be executed. So it will be skipped. And if you have not implemented the step definition, then it will tell you that this particular step is pending. You need to write a step definition for it. And also the scenarios, if you have two scenarios here, so scenarios should always be, should never be dependent on each other. So, and they are not related to each other. So if one scenario is failing, then it does not mean that the other scenario will fail. So the sequence goes with the steps and not with the scenarios in a particular feature. And it also tells you the time taken, the number of steps and the number of scenarios that you've executed. Now we come down to generating reports. So how do you generate reports while you're using Cucumber? It's very simple. Cucumber allows you to generate reports in a different formats. So here, in a couple of formats, so here we'll see that how do you generate an HTML report. You can generate the report in a JSON format as well, and the HTML and definitely the console output. And few others are there, you can check it in the documentation. Cucumber -- format, so here you specify that you want the output report in the format HTML, and you see that the output should be contained in the report.html file. So this is a kind of a sample report which you will see. So now if any of your test cases has failed, it will give you a red line here saying that this particular test case failed. So this is one kind of report. And this is another kind of report. Which one do you like? This one. This is more fancy stuff. So this is after you get the Jenkins integration. You see that what percentage of scenarios have failed or passed and steps. And below that you see the features or the test cases that you've implemented. So now we'll have a quick demo. Firstly, we'll see the console output here. So we have implemented the label feature testing and for the search as a feature. So here we see, okay. So here I implemented, the first is, so it gives me the tags as well, saying the background. When I select filter label 1, and then I should see the label 1 placeholder, this test case has passed. As we go down, so now you've already seen that when we clicked on the filter label 2, there was a bug. Correct? It was showing label 3. So here it catches hold of that particular bug and reports. When I select the filter label 2 from left face it, then I should see the placeholders from label 2. But I do not see that. Correct? So it has identified and it says that the expected was label 2, but it has got label 3. And hence our test case, this particular test case, this scenario has failed. The next goes for search. Searching for both the queries wherein we had data table, echo and print, the test case is passed because it's showing you that it's passed. So far so good. And at the end, in total 4 scenarios were run, 1 failed, 3 passed, the number of steps run and the time taken for this test execution. Correct? So we'll have a quick look at the, So the color is, so this is because the table is implemented, right? So it will actually show the color in this particular, because blue color says that this particular step has been skipped. It means that. But here, since your actual execution, that particular step isn't complete without the table. So here you will get the color coding. So if any of these scenarios fail, the red will be here. This is by default. So we'll have a quick look at the tags. How do we use the tags format as well? This was one of our tags. And now only this particular scenario will be run and we are done. Saying 2 scenarios were run for the search feature. This is how we use tags. Now we'll generate the HTML report here. So now the test case will be run and we'll get an HTML report for all the 2 features, and then we'll see the report. We're done. So here in the folder structure that we see, that in the reports folder, we have a file named as report.html. So we'll open this. So this is the HTML report which it looks like. So it says that this scenario fails, gives you a more readable interface, readable output saying the label 2 was expected, but it got label 3, and for this, both the test cases were passed. Here. Yeah. Any doubts so far? Okay. We go back to the slides. So this sample code for this application, the repository is available here. You can fork it, the sample application, but you can obviously use the folder structure and how the code has. Now this was up till this was without Jenkins. We've written our steps, we've written the step definitions, and we've seen how the code works. So now we move on to Jenkins. So do you have an idea what Jenkins is? Great. So Jenkins is, so I won't go much deep into it. Jenkins is simply a continuous integration tool just to collaborate with, on a project and have continuous delivery. So now, how do you relate this with the testing project that you have? So it's very easy. You just need to install Jenkins. We won't go much deeper into it. Install the necessary plugins. So what do you think would be the necessary plugins for a Ruby project to run? Or for your test project, for your test cases to execute in a CI system? Yes. And what else? How do you manage your code? Yeah. So we need one versioning control system. So I prefer Git, and you can use whatever and relate the plugins according to it. Then there's one plugin known as the in the build environment, which allows you to create a the desired Ruby version environment. So you can use the RVM plugin and specify which Ruby version you want to execute your test in, or use that particular version, and simply that environment will be created by Jenkins, and your test cases will be run using that Ruby version. Then there is the most important one is the Cucumber Jvm Report plugin, which you use, which reads the output from Cucumber in a JSON format. Here we've seen that we have mentioned the HTML format, and that uses the reads the output from the JSON format and converts the output into this. Create and configure your jobs. You need to configure your jobs as per the requirement, and you can schedule your builds. You can have nightly builds, or as per the requirement, like half an hour every 15 minutes, depending on your project. Generating reports in Jenkins, the plugin is Jenkins Cucumber Jvm Report plugin. So I already told you that it uses the, so here there's a link to it. You can always browse it to go through the GitHub code of this. Then we'll have a quick look at the demo of so this is the job which I've already configured. So here, I'll simply do, so this job I've configured only for running the test for the label filtering. So I'll simply do a build now, and we see the job executing, and we'll have a quick look at the report. So you all know by now that this build is going to fail because we have a bug here, right? All right. Yes. Yeah. So very good point. I just missed it out. So you can use the Firefox browser as well for running the test. Initiate the Firefox browser if you want to see the popping window again and again. But for Jenkins, we generally prefer that we use the headless gem. And I'll run you through it quick. So here, these are the gems that I've used. Cucumber, Water, Webdriver, RSpec to have the expectations, the headless gem to run my test cases in a headless mode so as to have, so that they execute in Jenkins as well easily. Then RSpec expectations again to match expectations. Here is where I've initiated the headless browser object, and I have commented out where I can initiate the instance for a Firefox browser because I wanted to use the headless and integrate this into Jenkins. But you can still have the code here. Then I've loaded the config file here and loaded the base URL. Then we have the before block where my variable is being initiated, the browser, that how it will interact. And this code snippet says that if a particular scenario fails, then it will take a screenshot and put it into the report. So we'll see now that we have a screenshot there in the Jenkins report with the build which we have already run. And at the end, I destroy the headless, the object that I created, and I close my browser. So now this was the build that you just executed. Whoa. So we see that 50% of our scenarios passed, 50% failed, 14% of our steps failed, 86% passed. Here this says to allow the users to filter the packages using the left facet. This was our feature which failed. When I click on it, I see the detailed report. We have a label here. So now it says to allow the users to filter the packages using left facet. Background is this. First scenario passed for label 1, second failed for label 2, and we have a screenshot here as well, which will give us a clear picture that what happened actually when this particular scenario failed. So when you add tags, so Jenkins also allows you to have a tag overview like this. So if you have multiple tags here, you will have multiple bars here, saying that this percentage of the test cases for this particular tag failed and how many passed this way. It gives you a feature overview, which was this, and a tag overview. Simply go back to the Jenkins. Done with the demo. Thank you. If you have any questions, one by one. Okay. So if your Jenkins server is not the server edition of, supposedly if you're using a Fedora with the UI and you execute the Firefox thing, then simply you can do that. So the server that I am using is a server edition wherein I do not have a UI, so I prefer the headless. Or one more thing that you can do is to your Jenkins server, you can add a slave, and on that slave machine, you can have the desired operating system and the desired Firefox version, and you can ask Jenkins to run that particular test or job on that slave. So it will work. It just depends how you configure your job and how you write your. So far, not as of now. So there is a very common question which comes up regarding the page loading aspect. So what Water provides you is, it provides you a method saying wait until. It doesn't ask the page, it doesn't wait for the page to load. So if you know, I told you that it's very important for you to inspect the elements of the web page very thoroughly before you start writing your test script. So you know that which element on the page is taking the maximum time to load. So you can ask, you can hold on, you can say add browser dot that particular element dot wait until present. So the so Water will wait until that particular element is comes on that page, appears on that page, and then go on to the next step. Yeah. So, so you decide depending on your project requirements. It depends project to project. Supposedly there's a lot of data, a huge amount of data. So you wouldn't prefer testing it on the UI layer, correct? You'll definitely go test the layer below, an API layer. So now there are cases wherein you want to test navigation, right? On clicks. So that is something that you cannot do at the API layer. Or if the data which is being rendered to the front end, is it correct or not? That is a kind of test case that you need to implement at the UI layer. So it is upon you to decide, depending on the project requirements, that how do you, which test cases you want to automate. Giving data. How you can validate. So for this you can have, okay, so replacing the earlier test case, so you'll have to make a table for yourself which will say, so here when you search for something, okay, so we'll make different inputs, right? When I input 1, and when I input 2, and when I input 3, then I should see output 1, correct? These are the 4 things. You have this kind of a table, correct? You can have the placeholders there, the keywords there, you can put input 1, input 2, input 3, and the output. And thus you can make a long table here, like this, the way, the amount of data that you want to test. Okay. So you'll have to input your data to Cucumber in a readable format so that this can read it. Or one or the other way is that if you do not want to use the feature that Cucumber provides, you can simply read the data from a JSON format or a YAML format and then process it, and then as per you want to execute your code and write your step definition, and you can proceed the way you want. The browser. So for driving the browser, the most commonly used is Selenium, so which I've already used. I've used Selenium with Python previously, and this is a Ruby gem. Then other alternatives that are there are Capybara you can use, and so you can. It's up to your choice that which automation library you want to use to automate to interact with your browser. So yeah, so one of the things is that you need to, so now most of the web applications are in like Ajax, right? So you need to see that the library that you're using, does it support Ajax applications built in Ajax or HTML5 and stuff like that. And and one of the major things that I already told is regarding the page load. So for Watir also you have support for Firefox, Chrome, IE, Safari is also there now. It wasn't there before, but now it's mobile. So mobile testing I have not explored yet, so I will not say anything. You can explore that section. Any other questions? Yes. So tag is simply a label to a particular feature or a scenario. It is just that you want to segregate it. You have a segregation saying that I am tagging this the search feature with the label at search. Now, if I want to execute this separately, this will help me. Or if I want to see the result reports that how many features this with this particular tag failed or passed, then it will give me an overview. It's just for identification and for to make your execution for a particular feature or a scenario. And we can have them at the feature level and the scenario level. Do I answer your question? There are no kinds of tags. It's on you that what name or what keyword you want to give to that particular tag. It is just with the prefix at the rate, and it's called a tag. A keyword with the prefix at rate is called a tag. So it depends on you how you want to tag your features or scenarios. One particular feature can have multiple tags as well. Yeah, and one of the other things, one of the other advantages of using tags is, so there are hooks that you can use in Cucumber. So if you want that a particular block of code should be run after some particular scenario, so you can do a after or a before block and add that tag, simply a tag, and just execute that, write that. This is also one of the features, advantages of using tags. Yeah. Yes. Yes. So for excluding a particular, sorry? Yes, yes. So if you know that there are some of the test cases which take a lot of time and you do not want to run them every time, so you can definitely add the tag fast and slow, and you can say that cucumber hyphen hyphen tags run all the test cases which have a tag as slow or fast or whatever base. So you can use tags if you want to in order to make the execution of your test more efficient. Yes. Exactly. Yes. 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 So so there is a so it's there in the documentation that how do you do the and how do you do the or. Anding is done if you put a comma, right, with hyphen hyphen tags, and or is done if you use the hyphen hyphen tags at the rate your tag, then again hyphen hyphen tags option, and then again the tag. And if you want to exclude a particular tag, supposedly you want to run all your features, but do not want to run one feature with some particular tag, you can simply negate it. Negate the tag and that will be excluded. Yes. So it's all there mentioned in the documentation. To learn more about Cucumber, the Cucumber book is the best if you want to go deep into it. Thank you so much.
To just continue, we have another session right after this. Kind of taking Cucumber and a
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Aditya.
I'm Kirtesh.
So we work with Idea as a SaaS company, and we are here to present our journey in achieving the right testing period. So just to give a brief background, Ideas is into business past 25 years and has vast experience in analytics and revenue management solutions. So the product that we are working on began its journey more than a decade ago, and is still leading its vertical in it's still a market leader worldwide. So we have 5,000 plus hotel installations and counting more. So as the product evolved, initially there was no automation at all, hardly any automation. So just a few percent of automation and rest of it was not covered. And the release cycles were typically of 6 months, in which the regression spanned for 1.5 months roughly. So as the product started evolving, features getting added, more and more clients started using the product. It became very difficult to regress the product in absence of automation. So that resulted in a couple of clients getting frustrated.
Regression is like a repetitive thing, and to do that repetitive, there are very heavy chances to lose a bug to production. So there are many that are reported by the client, and so that the frustration level of the client is getting high.
So at that time, the need for automation was felt, and what we started doing UI automation using Selenium Webdriver. So there was a dedicated team which started working on it, and we built the automation. And after the automation was introduced, then we saw some difference in the automation coverage. But gradually the UI automation test started building on.
We have a lot of code not yet automated by a single deployment.
So again, the difference happened in the release cycle. Instead of 1.5 months, the regression time came to approximately half month. And the state of the product reached where like 50% of the critical UI screens we got automated. The development team also started writing unit and integration tests for the new features. And but still, the major portion of legacy code did not go under any kind of automation mode. The image on the right side depicts the pyramid, the testing pyramid, wherein manual checking still looks to be prevalent, and the percentages of UI test, integration test, and unit test are depicted. So it looks like a ice cream cone. So yeah.
Our typical regression cycle, automated regression cycle is 14 hours. So when we start the regression on a UI, it takes 14 hours to feedback for a developer.
So let's have a quick demo of our one of the UI tests using Selenium WebDriver. So we have a module called best available rate. We are a revenue management company. Our product actually helps the revenue managers with worldwide hotels uh, to basically, so we provide them pricing decisions. So the revenue managers basically look at the pricing decisions that we provide based on the other input and the decisions. They either accept those decisions or put an override on those decisions. So this screen deals with those pricing decisions, bar screen. So let me run one more time. So here you can see it is invoking the browser, we are logging in, we are navigating to the screen. So, yeah. So, it is coupled with UI, it is browser dependent. Many a times, due to some structural deficiencies in HTML, we used to get false fails. It became really difficult to pinpoint what the real culprit is.
Many times we know that WebDriver behaves very weirdly when we use with IE, Internet Explorer. So many times it shows a false fail. Actually, that was not a failure, but it is like a failure.
One more difficulty was like it was very difficult to maintain because if any UI layout change happens within the release or due to enhancement of the feature, again the test cases have to be like rewritten or restructured. So it became difficult to maintain. Thus they were fragile. And the other part is it was always lagging with the current development in the release. So unless the feature UI is complete, we could not really and write those test cases. So it was not happening really within the release. Uh, so so the pyramid on the right hand side is the inverted pyramid as against the pyramid in the left hand side. we the inverted pyramid tells us that the end-to-end flow tests are the right places where we can uh,
We have the exact now, now, 90% of 80% of dates are of UI test for database, but actual test pyramid says that it should be a minimum one.
so, analyzing the bug report of our existing automation, we found out that 90% of the failures were actually data failures and very less were navigation or UI layout failures. So then we decided that we need to test things right at right place on right time, which would eventually result in right testing period. So, so the portion at the top tells that where our automated UI tests were attacking. It was actually on application UI. They were, as so to repeat, they were tightly coupled, fragile, and lagged with current development. So what we decided is to attack one layer below UI, where is the service layer, which which would be UI independent, pretty fast in execution, robust and stable because it will really not depend on UI, and can happen within the current development cycle. So we introduced BDD with Cucumber for the newer features. It is a snapshot of a sample feature file for the same bar module that we saw using Webdriver. So pairing creates value is what we have witnessed. And now let's have a quick demo of. So this is the feature file for the same bar screen that we saw. If we look at the first scenario, it is doing the same thing that the WebDriver test did. It is going to the bar page, entering a date, and just retrieving the bar data and validating the data. The same scenario, let's just quickly execute. So it got over in like much more less time, it's hardly 15 seconds. Earlier time was 36 seconds.
Time. But when we go to volume wise, when we have a lot of tests, then it goes to hours and it completes in 1 minute in the current.
So with the tests moving one layer below UI, this is the current status. We do have UI tests. We have test workflow tests that are one level below UI. There are unit and integration tests. There is still some portion which has no automation. So so again with the release cycle, we managed to reduce the regression time and like aiming further for like further reduction.
No application will be self covered in the development time.
So yes. if we go to, so
Java.
yeah, we are using Java. Through through these step definitions, we are actually calling uh, the service layer, and after the data call, we are actually asserting the data. So here in the feature file, we are as part of the then part, we are expecting we are putting the expected data in data table, and the whatever the API call that we go give to the service layer, when it is returning us the data, we are actually asserting that data against this data. So, since this feature is a legacy feature, it has been there for quite a while. It actually had no APIs exposed. So that was really one of the challenges while we did this. So, as the pain point suggests, it is difficult to implement in case where there is no API exposed or it is tightly coupled with UI. Um, of course, there is a learning curve for the team to start with, and right now, as of now, we have a heavy dependency on pre-populated database because ours is a data-intensive product. We require several data conditions, so we are dependent on pre-populated database. So that's
In the database and keep the database for. And it's very difficult to maintain the database.
so. Looking ahead, we intend to move the BDD specifications to the lower layer in the application. It is right now one layer below the UI. The lower layers would then be covered. Also, one of the aim is we want to move away from the baseline database, as we discussed with the pre-populated database, so that the tests become truly independent. They'll have their own data, they'll execute and they'll flush the data. As of now, we don't have that case, but we intend to move to that level. The third important thing is we want to expose more RESTful APIs for whatever new features that we write. So,
Simple to implement. Yeah.
so, so in our case, uh, there are different data scenarios, or for different features, there are different data conditions. So we need to create those many properties with that many data conditions in different data. So every time something new comes up, we have to modulate or we have to change or add. So that becomes like that is a maintenance task.
And after the execution, the data gets changed and we need to again basically it and that takes the time while
Executing the test.